Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think we'll start this evening if you would join me by rising and saying the pledge of allegiance. Thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Rob Hubbard. The Board of Selectmen asked me to moderate the meeting tonight. I think the reason they asked me was I was town moderator for 12 years. I'm also the planning director for the city of Gardner and was involved with the reuse planning at Fort Devens when that went from military to civilian. So I have some experience in related issues. But I think most importantly, it was my 12 years as town moderator, and I'll try and run this. I know it's not a town meeting, but we'll try and operate in that sort of manner. When people want to speak, if they would come to the front, there are 2 microphones here that are operable. Just come on down and stand by the microphones. The fire chief always tells me that I have to tell people where the exits are. So there's an exit here, an exit there, and 2 exits to the back. The other housekeeping item, the bathrooms are out into the hall and down to the left. We will go through the agenda. Most of you probably picked one up when you came in. We'll give folks on the agenda about 5 minutes to make a presentation. After that, we'll open it up to comments and questions. If you have something to say, as I said, come down to the microphones. Try to, so that everybody gets a chance to speak, because what we really want to do here is have an exchange of information. Try not to ask the same question if it's already been asked. That would get us through this. I think, we'll probably an hour or so for the presentations. We should have plenty of time for questions, but just to make sure everybody gets a chance. I guess the next thing would be I'll turn it over to Jerry Skelton, the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, to do some introductions.
Thank you, and good evening. As you look around the table up here to my left, we have some very excellent speakers here tonight, and I'm most appreciative of them taking time out to come out and spend time with us and talk about this important subject. So I will start at my far left, your far right, and I'll try to go through some of these names. If I'm wrong, would you please let me know? Mike Tino Santo? Okay. Okay, and he's from the Massachusetts Nurses Association. Then we have Andrew Stacy. He's president of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO. Then we have David Hart, president of the Coalition of Family and Advocates for the Retarded, COFAR. And we were going to have Thomas Frayne. I understand he's in the audience, is he? Thomas Frayne. He was going to be here in place of David. David showed up. So. Okay, he's in. Okay. Then we have Larry Tomino. He's a Commissioner, Department of Developmental Services for the state. We have Diane Enox, Director of Facilities, Department of Developmental Services, DDS. Side him, we have Dana Harrell, Director of Real Estate Services, Division of Capital Asset Management, DCAM. Then we have Massachusetts State Representative Ian Goby. And beside Ian, we have Massachusetts State Senator Stephen Brewer. Did I miss one? Okay. All right, start to my far right, your left, is the Templeton Board of Selectmen, Julie Farrell, Dennis O'Brien, Bob Columbus, our town coordinator, Carol Skelton, and I am chairman. As chairman of the Board of Selectmen, I would like to welcome you to this most important forum to discuss the state's proposed closing of the Templeton Developmental Center in Templeton. I feel privileged to have such a notable number of speakers representing multiple positions in state government. I wish to thank all of you, the officials, for tonight. So we are here tonight to express our concerns with the state's proposal closing the Templeton Developmental Center. The Templeton Board of Selectmen is opposed to such closure for multiple reasons. First, closure would force the most vulnerable residents of our homes, of their homes, out of their homes and into unfamiliar surroundings. Rather than displacing the residents elsewhere, we need to discuss bringing the community to the residents. Next, closure of the center would equate to the loss of approximately 400 jobs. Putting people out of work does not help anyone. Families would suffer, the town would suffer, the local economy as a whole would further decline. Also, it is rumored that the Gardner prison may close, which could mean the loss of another 400 additional jobs in the area. Would the local economy survive? Would people have to leave their homes to find work elsewhere? The town of Templeton has always been a good neighbor to the Templeton Developmental Center. It has provided police and fire services and emergency rescue services. The town-owned electric and water departments have always provided low, reliable electricity and an ample water supply. Finally, the Board of Selectmen asks that the concerns that are expressed this evening be promptly conveyed to the governor through Senator Brewer and Representative Goby. Hopefully, the governor and other involved state officials will reconsider the closing of one of the best operating state facilities in Massachusetts, allowing the residents to remain in their homes, avoid increasing the unemployment rate in the area, and keep our local economy from bearing further economic depression. We need to think about the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. I'll now ask Dana Harrell, Director of Real Estate Services from DCAM, to come up to the mic and say a few words, if you would.
So pleased to be here with you this evening to at least talk about DCAM's role in a very important property and event for this community. As some of you may know, but some of you may not know, DCAM is the real estate arm for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We are responsible for various real estate transactions, whether it be construction, acquisition, or disposition of real estate, any leasing, any transaction involving Commonwealth real estate. With respect to this project, the Templeton Development Center, at a time after a decision is made, DCAM becomes involved in assisting the Department of Developmental Services in any transition or closure planning, and thereafter DCAM would then work with the community and its local delegates on a reuse plan for a portion or all of the property as designated by the Department of Developmental Services in terms of whatever their plan would be. So as most of you probably know, that there has, at this point, we're looking at a time frame that's a few years off for looking at this property. However, our role at this time, it's a little early for DCAM to be involved in any reuse planning because the process of making the determination as to Templeton, as well as other facilities, is ongoing. So, but in general, the DCAM's role is a real estate role, and we, once again, have a history of working with the communities in terms of how to best reuse real estate after a decision is made as to how the real estate, how the center will be used on a going forward basis, in whole or in part. So, again, pleased to be here, and look forward to answering any questions that you might have about DCAM's role as the Templeton project, moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Next, Diane Munich, for the Director of Facilities, Department of Developmental Services. Diane.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with everyone tonight. A lot of familiar faces. I guess, as I think back on this all started around the time that we had the ice storm out here, which is, I think, something that we'll never forget. And then we had the announcement on December 12th. And at that point in time, the governor announced a plan to close 4 of the facilities in Massachusetts. There are currently 6 facilities. We were in the process of closing the Vernal Developmental Center in Belmont near Boston. And in addition to that, Munson, Lavin, and Templeton would be closed over the next 4 years. The basis behind that decision is a lot of different factors. One is the Olmsted decision that a lot of you are aware of around least restrictive settings in 1999, a federal mandate law that we have been implementing across the nation. And then more recently, the Patrick administration came out with Community First and really focused on implementing the Olmsted and having community supports available, whether it's for elderly, whether it's for veterans, whether it's for folks with developmental disabilities, to really move in that direction. And when you look around, just in New England, with the 6 states that we have, only one other state has a large institution, and that is Connecticut. The other states have all closed theirs, and here we have 6 facilities. So a decision was made to keep 2 of the facilities open, and one rent them long-term, as long as we have Ritchie class members, and the other one, Hogan, to defer the decision until we finish the closure of the 4 facilities. So that's a little bit of a background as to why the decision was made to close the 4 facilities. When you take a look at Templeton, it's been here for a very long time, over 100 years. It has an excellent track record of care. No one has ever questioned that, and it has always met the federal requirements and really done well in this community. And for those very reasons, a decision was made by our Commissioner Howe to go forward with Templeton and have a very, very strong presence, recognizing the expertise of the state, think 350 staff right now working at the Templeton Developmental Center, and there will continue to be a huge need for probably around 200 staff as we continue this initiative by utilizing state-operated homes in this area. So there will be a Templeton presence. There will be 63 new state-operated homes that never existed before. And we also currently have 2 homes in the Gardner Templeton area which will continue to run. In addition to that, in recognition of the incredible work done here, there is a commitment from the commissioner to have a vocational presence at Templeton. And when she was out here, she mentioned the Valley Barn, which has been a part of Templeton for quite some time. So that will continue. As we go forward with the closure, the focus is on the individuals, the least restrictive setting for individuals, and providing equal to or better. And that is absolutely the cornerstone of all the planning. Right behind that comes the families and working with the families to make sure there's a comfort level there. And lastly, the staff is our third major concern. A lot of other concerns, but those are the 3 areas we focused on. And because of the staff and the expertise here, we have gone forward with a very large state-operated system. And we'll be building new homes for 40 individuals, and we'll be converting 3 of the current homes that exist at Templeton into state-operated homes, and they will continue to be a support to the cluster. That's the general overview. I'll be happy to answer any questions as the night goes on of our plan. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, I'd like to ask State Senator Stephen Brewer.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate that. Appreciate you being here. This week on Thursday, the governor will be coming forward with a plan to cut $600 million out of the existing state budget that we're operating on right now under FY10. The legislature cut $1.5 billion out of that budget at the beginning of the fiscal year, and yet the astronomical plummeting of revenues on capital gains tax revenues and all forms of tax revenue has necessitated the governor for further cuts. We joined 49 out of 50 states in the union that have budget shortfalls during this fiscal year. On that list is the closure of 11 registries of motor vehicles. We have already confronted the governor on one of the closures in proximity to our district in Southbridge. He has given his Secretary of Public Safety a mission to close 10 out of 40 state police barracks in Massachusetts. And it goes on, whether it's Templeton Developmental Center, Glavin, or Munson Developmental Center, and a myriad of other things. And quite honestly, we don't even know where it will be and where it will fall yet relative to local aid and how it will affect our boards of selectmen. These are grim times, folks. You hear about the stock market improving, reaching over 10,000 points, and you say, well, why isn't it affecting us? Most of the experts, so they call themselves anyway, tell us that it will be upwards of 12 to 18 months before our taxable revenues are returned. In particular, our great dependence on capital gains tax revenues, which have gone from $2.1 billion to less than $500 million. Our rainy day fund went from over $2 billion to less than $500 million. These are very, very grim statistics, but they affect real lives, real people who give great service and great love. Chairman Skelton, I would like to tell you that I am also opposed to the closing of the Templeton Developmental Center. If I had my way, I'm going to be paid for applause. I'm not going to do blame to anybody tonight. But if I had my way, it would have remained always, always. And I will tell you a few things. There is plenty of blame to go around. When I first came into office, Bill Wells wanted to close the Glavin Center in Shrewsbury. And I toured that, and I looked at the panoramic views of the city of Worcester, and I knew that Bill Wells would have liked to have put a casino up there. And then Paul Salucci came along, and he had his knuckleheaded idea to go to put all kinds of housing up at Templeton, if you recall the Salucci methodology. But he did not want to build any schools for Templeton or any wastewater treatment capacity or anything else. Just an idea pulled out of the sky without any support for the community. At that point in time, under the Secretary of Environmental Affairs, Bob Duran, Representative Goby and I worked on putting under Article 97 land protection for 1,600 acres of that land up there. So there won't be any casino up there, quite honestly, or anything but environmental purposes. That is the constitutional amendment of Article 97. You know, you go to the Ferncoe Fair or you walk around this facility, and what I see are happy faces. I see people that are loved and are cared for and in a beautiful setting. Again, if I had my way, it would remain open. Two approaches to this. Community-based residences for people that want them, and institutional settings on that beautiful campus for those and those families that would want them as well. And Diane Enoch did tell us about that ice storm. We never got the call, quite honestly. I was in my cellar without electricity, bailing out the cellar because the sump pump wouldn't work and the water was coming in on that particular day. And I'm only on Senate Ways and Means, quite honestly. On Senate Ways and Means, we have budget hearings in various areas. 2 years ago at Westfield State College, Commissioner Howe came there, and she told me during lunch break that she knew how to close these facilities. And I said, you better show me a better standard than we've seen before. Remember, Belchertown used to be in my district, and I understand that. If you read the first page of the DMR Community Service Expansion Facilities Restructuring Plan, it says, in order to effectively fulfill this responsibility, the department will draw upon the experience gained from the successful closures of Belchertown and the Deborah Developmental Center. Anybody been to Belchertown? 17 years later, they still need $10 million to remediate asbestos and everything else up there. That plan has been a nightmare, quite honestly, and it hasn't worked. And if they're going to do it right, I want to see it. All right. We had a meeting with the Secretary, Diane Enoch's double boss, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Dr. Bigby. I told her, and I told Commissioner Howe, you got a closure plan, you come to Templeton, you come to Munson, and you face these people. They didn't come. Commissioner Howe did not come. She sent Diane Enoch to Templeton to meet with this Board of Selectmen. That's the first word that I haven't had adhered to. That troubles this senator, I will tell you that. And I want these people to come and meet with the real people of this world. Now, Representative Goby, Representative Rice, Senator Flanagan, all of us during the budget worked on two particular things, asking for a cost-benefit analysis on this before any closure happens in that particular arena. And the second half of that thing is to have not another Belchertown. If indeed this does happen, we need to plan for that intelligently with all, not from the top down, not from Boston down, but from Templeton up, quite honestly. Let the people of Templeton, particularly Royalston and Gardner, be the masters of their own destiny as well, not Boston on a reuse plan. If you choose to join it and work on the reuse plan, fine. I think we would welcome it, and we have put it in an institutional statute now. The Glavin is not there. Their legislator hasn't done that. It's a bill that's filed. It'll have a hearing on Thursday. But we have already got it into law, thanks to the aggressive work of the people in this particular delegation here. There are real impacts that happen here in this relative to the towns and all of these areas. What can you do? Now, I'll tell you right now, you can be active. When you're all in a room, and this is the only topic for the night here, you have a sense that it's going to be tomorrow. It won't be. It's 3 to 3.5 years out. But even so, you should get started and working on this thing as soon as tomorrow and be the masters of your own destiny, no matter which direction it goes. You say, well, legislators, what can you do? Let's get mad at this department. And what should we do? Cut their budget? That only exacerbates the problem. It's going to be cut by $40 million by Thursday anyway, probably, during these cuts, upwards of that during this fiscal year. It's not that. We will work to try to find a fair and equitable approach to this thing and fight where we can to make the voices heard. I come to it with 3 priorities. Number 1, the clients. All of you here, it should always, I know you've devoted your lives and your careers to those good people up there. They have a 4 nickels worth of iodine in their mother's embryonic fluid. They might have been your normal brother and sister, quite honestly. They are God's children, and we owe them a solemn responsibility to give them the best love and care that we can. The second item is dedicated state employees that don't make much money at all, and they give love and care to these clients as state employees. Not to put them at 3rd, 4th, or 5th. clients, employees, and make sure that Templeton is not left with a white elephant for the next 20 years up there with unremediated contaminations and unprotected public safety issues for people getting in there. Those things, the clients, the employees, and the facilities. All of us working together, we can make sure that we can do the best that we can for all three of these entities. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Senator. Next, I'd like to ask Representative Ann Goby.
Thank you, Rob, and it's nice to see everyone that came out tonight. I also want to say a special thanks to my colleague, Bob Rice, representative from Gardner, for being here, and Carly Antonellis from Senator Flanagan's office. I thank you for being here and showing your support in opposition to the closing of the center. I really appreciate it. Commissioner Elin Howe in May came before one of the committees and offered testimony. And I'm just going to read you a little part of the testimony that she offered. And it had to do with closing of the facilities. And it basically says that in either proposing community placement or transfer to another facility, that we must demonstrate that individuals will receive services that are equal to or better than those they receive at their current facility. Now, I know that many of the people here know the men and women that work up at the Templeton Developmental Center. And I think that you will agree with me that the folks who call the Templeton Developmental Center their home know that they are receiving now the best care, the best compassion, the best services that they could ever receive. I'm not going to take up a lot of time because it's really important that the folks here, that all of us hear the questions that you have. And I just want to share with you a letter that I received from a woman whose son is a resident of Templeton. I'm just going to read just a little bit of this. I'm here today to tell you about my son, his community, and his home. Templeton Developmental Center, where he has lived for the past 21 years. My son is 44 years old and has other issues which complicate his disability. Before Templeton, my son's life was a disaster. He lived in various group homes. Nothing worked for him. He received many beatings. He was robbed. He was even sentenced to jail. In jail, he continued to receive beatings. I truly believe he would not be alive today if he had not been placed in Templeton. He is a different person than he was before he came to Templeton. His life has changed, and I thank God every day and pray it will never be what it was for him before he came to live here. Now that is just one of many stories that are repeated over and over again, time and again at Templeton. And it just exemplifies that the Templeton Developmental Center needs to stay open. I will continue to work with you in that fight.
Thank you, Ann. The next speaker will be Andy Stacy, president of ASME AFL.
I'd like to thank the Board of Selectmen for sponsoring this very important public meeting to discuss our collective concerns regarding the governor's proposed closure of the Templeton Developmental Center. I would also like to thank COPAR family members, guardians, advocates, concerned citizens, and the surrounding region, the Mass Nurses Association, ASME union members, and the employees of the Templeton Developmental Center. I especially want to thank Senator Steve Brewer, Representative Goby, for their expressed full support for the local. In addition, I'd like to thank Representative Bob Rice for his attendance, and Senator Jen Flanagan, I understand, is on the mend, and sent an aid out, and we appreciate that greatly. We look forward to standing with our legislators in opposing the closure plan. Templeton has been a part of this community and the town of Templeton for over a century, providing homes for the disabled. while providing services to them that are unmatched not only in the state but in the country. Indeed, the center is a model facility. The center provides unique vocational opportunities for the residents to work in a variety of occupations. They work in the groundskeeping department, storeroom distribution, housekeeping and food services, recycling, redemption, and a dairy operation in existence since 1954. And I can tell you that the residents take great pride in their jobs and in addition enjoy working with the animals. The nursing department provides highly competent care to the residents who have a wide range of medical issues 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The recreation department supports community participation on a number of different levels. Going out to eat, going to the movies, the Big E, Six Flags, ball games, and many other community events. The recreation department also plans yearly residents' vacations to many area locations, including the Cape, Maine, camping, and holds numerous grounds-wide functions that the residents take great enjoyment in. Some of the Special Olympic activities that they participate in: skiing, cross-country, downhill, unified bocce, unified volleyball, unified golf, unified softball, bicycling, fishing, unified soccer, basketball, and bowling. The seniors also have their own senior sports and enjoy track and field and competition. Please be advised our primary concerns are for the well-being of the residents of the center. It is also important to note the economic impact in the surrounding community of losing 300 jobs. Even the initial proposal made by the agency through media in December of 2008 trumpeted the reduction in workforce. At the same time, legislators were reassured that no jobs would be lost. We feel that this was not a very honest statement from the state leadership. In an already economically depressed area in central Massachusetts, this will only further our crisis. And when and if this plan is enacted, and the state builds homes they cannot afford, the cities and towns will bear the brunt of their misguided plan by having local aid reduced to them again, further eroding local services in Templeton and the surrounding areas. At present, the town of Templeton cannot afford needed fire equipment such as a new fire truck. And as one who lived through a home fire, I personally know the value of fire equipment and making sure that the residents in town are safeguarded against such hazards. Indeed, it seems like with the new revelations of the state's desire to close the NCCI facility in Gardner, if it's west of Route 495, the current leadership wants to move it east, regardless of what is in the interest of public safety for its most vulnerable citizens. We would propose innovative and inventive ways to move forward, using the above-average natural wind resources at the center and in the form of community gardens with clean, green wind power. Indeed, there are models already in existence with the wind turbines at the Worcester County Jail System, as well as the project underway at the Templeton School. Facilities can become energy independent, making them more efficient, also reducing local citizens' municipal electric bills. Surely our senior citizens on fixed incomes could benefit across the region and use the help. The residents at the center could benefit by staying in their long-established homes. The town and the citizens would benefit, and even the state would gain economically in the form of new permanent green jobs. Basically, it would be a win-win-win situation instead of the outdated approach of mass layoffs, which would serve only to further the economic crisis in the surrounding region. Wind energy grants are available by evidence of the $2 million plus grant for the turbine at the school in Templeton, paid back at 0% interest. This is the kind of forward thinking we need. In summation, the local is now taking a strong interest in candidates, whether you're running for governor or selectman, to ensure that we are true advocates of the disabled in representing us. We have just begun in our efforts to save the homes of the most vulnerable residents in this town. We will encourage political activity and like-minded citizens from the area and work with them. State legislators, community leaders, advocates, families, guardians, and other unionized citizens in a collective effort to stop the forced transfers of our citizens from the center. Thank you very much.
Next, I'll ask Mike D. from the Massachusetts Nurses Association. I knew I couldn't pronounce it.
Good evening. I want to first thank the Templeton Select Board for the opportunity to speak at this important forum this evening. My name is Michael Dinton Santo. I'm a registered nurse and president of the Mass Nurses Association, M&A, Unit 7, State Chapter of Healthcare Professionals. We represent over 1,800 registered nurses and licensed healthcare professionals working for the Commonwealth. The M&A represents over 23,000 registered nurses and licensed healthcare professionals in Massachusetts in a variety of settings. In partnership with the Coalition of Families and Advocates for the Retarded, COFAR, we speak in opposition to the closure of the Templeton Developmental Center as well as the other TDS facilities in the Commonwealth. There are many valid reasons to maintain the spectrum of care for the Commonwealth's developmentally disabled citizens, and this should not include a forced eviction of the state's most vulnerable from what have been their homes for most of or all of their lives. You will hear that these individuals are being given a choice, but is it really choice when your choice to stay in what has been your home for many years is not an option? I am providing as a historical document to the board the COFAR position statement written with the assistance of M&A staff on the closure of the Fernald School. Just as those arguments were valid 6 years ago, so too are they valid today and can be applied to Templeton and the other DDS facilities. Many of the arguments for facility closure, are based on, at best, misunderstandings and misinformation, and at worst, from the financial interests of the private providers. Perhaps the greatest misunderstanding is that of the conditions at state facilities. The image most often portrayed is that of the old warehouses for people with mental illness and retardation, and that the treatment methods are antiquated and outmoded. The fact is, those are images of a very distant past. Today, these facilities are modern, inviting facilities, providing the most advanced therapies, including medical and nursing care, physical and occupational therapy, and adaptive technologies that allow individuals to function at their fullest capacity. All of these services are provided on site. Movement to a community placement will mean that individuals will have to travel to receive this care. Furthermore, any placement from the facilities will be to homes that will not fall under the federal regulations ICFMR. This means that many of these therapies will not be mandated and will in many cases be eliminated. We believe it is not possible to replicate this level of care in a community setting. It is for this reason that we believe that the standard of equal or better cannot be met. Additionally, many individuals are medically fragile and movement to another setting would be traumatic. A 1997 report by the Massachusetts House Post-Audit and Oversight Committee cited grave concerns about the ability to provide equal or better care in community settings. More recently, a 2007 report by the federal court monitor to Judge Toro identified an increased level of abuse in some community settings. We believe the Post-Audit and Oversight Committee should replicate the work they did 12 years ago as an evaluation process independent of the feasibility study being conducted by the Department of Developmental Services, the very department recommending closure. There continue to be misperceptions about the cost of care in facilities versus community settings. The decision to close facilities is based, at least in part, on the premise that it will save the Commonwealth money. The fact is, the cost of care for people with developmental disabilities is not based on physical location, but rather on levels of supports needed for these individuals. We believe that it is safe to assume that if the Commonwealth is to save money in this effort, it is as a result of reducing services. In addition to the COFAR document, I have also provided a press release from the Association of Developmental Disability Providers, ADDP. Cited in the article are Gary Blumenthal of the ADDP, Leo Sarkeesian, president of the Association for Retarded Citizens of Massachusetts, and Mark Zanger, a leading member of COFAR. While the ADDP and COFAR have long disagreed on the issue of community placement versus continued use of facilities, in this article they agree on one thing. It doesn't make sense to be moving more individuals with developmental disabilities into a community service system that is already struggling and is facing further budget cuts. While we support the concept of the Governor's Community First initiative, we believe that the full spectrum of level of support should be considered in the decision-making process. I will close with a question for us all to consider. Not yet addressed in this debate are the future needs of this population. Despite the best advances in medical technology, there will continue to be people born with developmental disabilities. Will the services they need be available to them? Thank you.
The last speaker from the stage is David Hart, the president of the Coalition of Family and Advocates for the Retarded. David.
Good evening, everybody. My comments this evening are going to be very short because I stand between you and your comments. And you people that have shown up this evening, those are the comments that the people on this stage need to hear. You are the ones telling the story. First, I'd like to thank the Board of Selectmen. I'd like to thank Senator Brewer, Representative Goby, Senator Flanagan, and Representative Rice for being here this evening. I'd also like to tell you that I am president of COFAR. I had a brother that lived at Hogan Regional Center for 25 years prior to his death in 1996. He was profoundly retarded and medically fragile. In the last days of his life, when he was at Hogan, prior to having to go to a skilled nursing home, he had to be moved by 3 or 4 people at one time. If he wasn't, he would stop breathing. My father, who's here in the audience tonight, will attest to the fact that if he was not at Hogan, he would not have lived as long as he did. COFAR is a statewide advocacy group for all citizens with mental retardation and developmental disabilities. I'm also a member of VOR. VOR is Voice of the Retarded. They're a national organization that represents people, again, with MRDD and supports choice and facilities. One thing that everybody needs to understand is if we don't believe that we're advocating for the most vulnerable population, let me give you just 2 statistics. In the United States, 3% of the population has some type of mental retardation or developmental disability. The 1%, which is who we are speaking for today, are the people who need facilities. So of the 3%, 1% is who we're talking to, is who we're talking about. I have 4 points that I want to bring up. Point number 1 is eviction of these residents is for many a death sentence. In 2003, when Governor Romney announced the closure of Fernald, 43 people left Fernald. 7 died within the first 2 years. In California, several years ago, back in the 80s, when California decided to close all of their facilities, they did a mortality study, and there's a very, very high number of deaths that resulted from the closure of the facilities and putting people out into the community. The community is not ready for these people as it's constituted right now. The community does a great job. We've got some great state ops out there. However, they are not ready. They cannot, as Mike mentioned, they cannot keep the same level of care that your loved ones are getting here in the facilities. The Olmsted decision was mentioned by Ms. Enox from DDS. What she failed to tell you was on the Olmsted decision is that it does mention community first, but it also says community first, but not to the detriment of the facilities. So Olmsted is a decision by the Supreme Court of choice. Whatever fits the need of the individual is where the individual should be. In fact, there are 250 facilities, ICF-MR designated facilities across the country. You heard just this evening that we're the last state to have ICF-MR facilities. That's untrue. There are 250 of them across the state, across the country, and they are serving a population of about 50,000 individuals. So clearly we're not the last state. In fact, California, who was one of the leading states to close facilities, is now rethinking their position and considering opening up facilities because they realize that the people in the community are not doing as well as they could be doing. My third point is the definition of community. I look around Hogan, I look around Templeton, I look around Fernald, Munson, Glavin, and I ask you, what is a community? If this is not a community, I don't know what is. 33,000 Massachusetts residents are being served by the Department of Mental Retardation, Department of Developmental Disabilities. 11 to 15,000 of them use the facilities for health care and dental care. The average dentist appointment for somebody that is retarded, that come from the facilities, takes 2 to 3 patient appointments. Can you find a dentist in the private community that's going to give you 2 to 3 patient appointments to care for your loved one's teeth? You can't. Tufts Dental, whose budget was severely cut by Governor Patrick at the last budget go-around, was cut, I think, by over $100,000, if I'm not mistaken. They took a devastating hit. They can't serve as many people as they'd like to serve. They are the ones serving our loved ones, not only in the facility, but from the community. The community itself, Templeton, I know for a fact that Fernald, for instance, uses the fields for soccer games, baseball games, practices. They use over at Hogan, there's community acting groups that use the stage and auditorium to put on shows. So the community, and I know the same is going on at Templeton, it's knit with the Templeton residents, the community residents are all one. My last comment, which unfortunately, I saved it for the last for a reason. We talk about a cost savings, and unfortunately, we have to put a dollar value on this. Former facility director, Dr. Al Picotti, who ran Glavin Center for 20 some odd years, wrote a white paper for us at COFAR, and he proved that it is absolutely positively less expensive to care for somebody with the problems that our people have in the facility, maintain the same level of care, and not the community. When COFAR asked the Department of Developmental Services for the same numbers that Dr. Picotti used for Glavin, we were denied those numbers. We've asked that the feasibility study include the facilities that it's including, but also include Fernald. Fernald was left out of that, by the way. At the very last minute, Fernald was taken out on some language. But the fact of the matter is that the department is doing its own feasibility study. I ask you, how do you think it's going to come out? Representative Goby stated, equal or better care. There is no equal or better care right now in the community system through the state office to handle the most profound and medically fragile people that are living in our facilities today. Somebody said, and I don't remember who it is, but I hear this all the time, and I'm sure you've heard the quote before, the responsibility of government is to care for its most vulnerable population. Who are more vulnerable than the people that we're here representing tonight? And how can we possibly put them out and evict them? And that's what it is, it's an eviction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. The next item on agenda, number 8, is we're inviting comments from family members or guardian representatives. The 2 mics are here. If you would like to just, yes ma'am, just come right down here and yes ma'am. I didn't do a great job remembering people's names at town meeting, and I certainly don't know your folks' names. So I will just try, if you want to speak, I would suggest you come up closer to one of the mics and have a chair close to the mic, and then you'll be able to speak, and I'll be able to recognize you. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Bonnie DeLay. I have a son who has lived at Templeton for 21 years. His name is Tony. I am also a member of COFAR. First, I would like to begin by letting you know I am not against community living, but I do know firsthand that it is not for everyone. That is why there are state facilities. Most residents were placed in these facilities because they could not survive in the community. It gave them another choice, another option, another chance in life, such as the case with my son Tony. DMR says community first, but has not addressed if first doesn't work. I would like to tell you what an impact closing Templeton will have on the people living there. First, they will lose their homes. To most, it's the only home they have known. They will lose critical on-site clinical care. They will not receive on-site clinical care in community homes. What is on-site clinical care? It is their support. It's their social workers, the psychologists, nurses, skilled staff, the structure of the facility. If there is an emergency, they have what they need to respond to that crisis. On-site, available to them when they need it. Most are on medications. Many of these meds are serious drugs. They are now given by nursing staff. In the community, they will be given by a person who has taken a 16-hour course. They will lose their freedom to roam around grounds, feeling safe and secure in their community. Some will lose jobs. They have jobs on grounds. Jobs they are comfortable with and give them a feeling of worth. They will not and cannot receive equal or better care in the community because of their special needs. This is a violation of their rights. Templeton is a home for them, their home, their community, where they can live with dignity, respect, and worthiness, where they are safe and protected from neighborhoods that don't even want them. It blows my mind to think that we have a department, DDS, which, by the way, you can change the name, but it doesn't change the needs. A department that was formed to serve and protect people with MR in a country that promises justice for all. A governor that shows no compassion towards people with developmental disabilities, with its continuous cuts to their budget and its deaf ears to the cries of family members. His compassion really showed through when he found it necessary to announce to all of us a few days before Christmas that he was closing 4 of the facilities. Commissioner Howe told us earlier this year at a parents' meeting at Templeton that one of the reasons the facilities were closing was because there was no interest. No one wanted to live in these facilities. This is not true. We know for a fact that there are hundreds of people waiting for services, many needing the structure that only a state facility can provide. They are being denied admission. She went on to tell us that staff were leaving. Some were retiring and others were leaving for better opportunities. The fact of the matter is staff are being offered a bonus if they retire early. They were even planning a job fair to entice staff to leave their positions at Templeton and work in the community, knowing this is a scary time and jobs will be scarce. I see this as a new strategy. Stop admission, get rid of staff. The facilities will have to close ahead of plan. Mission completed. When hearing about the closings, an elderly mom told me that she had no family members alive. It was only her and her son. He had lived most of his life at Templeton. Now, she said with tears in her eyes, she prays every night that her son will die before her because she can no longer trust the state to take care of him. How sad is that? Another mom wrote on a petition we have passed out opposing the closing. She wrote, "Please help my son. I am too old to fight for him." What are we becoming? Who are we? If we allow this to happen, these people are easy prey, and not having the ability to speak up and to stand up for their rights as human beings. Someone once said, a fundamental test of all of us is how we treat people less fortunate than us. That someone was the late, great Senator Ted Kennedy. Thank you all.
Yes, sir. Please identify yourself.
Good evening, I'm Anthony Judge. I'm the brother of a resident of Templeton. First, I would like to thank everybody who is here. Just the fact that we're here. Everybody at Templeton, I think we all agree, is special in their own way. When you think of Rain Man, he had unique qualities. The same is true with everybody at Templeton, including my brother. He's offended with animals. It's incredible. But when he was very young, not everybody who didn't know him would accept these, what would you call them, variances of what's accepted as normal behavior. I pick him up here, we go in town, we go to the Pizza Hut, the Papagino's, the movie, where do you go? Everybody from Gardner to here accepts everybody from the colony. I have never seen any type of reaction that was against that. Now, I want to say, the one, I mentioned Rain Man for a reason. It was obvious in the movie that he was very upset when he was taken from his normal routine. That is a normal also. My brother has lived at Templeton for 50 years. He's 65 years old. He's been there since he's 50. He's worked in the barn. I said he hasn't been there with animals. I go up there and I say I'm Bobby's brother. Oh, I know Bobby. Everybody. I go to the movies in Gardner. Hi, Bobby. It's incredible. This is his life. He had a recent bout with pneumonia. He spent some time in the Hayward Hospital. When a resident in Templeton has a medical problem, they don't go right back to where they lived before. They go back to the nurses. One of the buildings has a nurses facility where they're under constant care. Even though he's been there several times, he gets morose, withdrawn, doesn't eat. He goes back to his room. He counts all his little treasures. He was looking for a clock. The lady in the building said, "Oh, why don't you take the attic?" We went up to the attic, and there is 50 years worth of my brother's mementos. They have saved everything for him because it means something to him. Where's it going to go? Where are they going to put that in the community? What is going to happen to him the first time that he walks out of a house into a street and gets on a bus and does not understand money or knows where he's going, but unfortunately looks very normal? He's a handsome fellow, very well mannered, very docile. But when he's going to be in the wrong end of town, who can't pay a bus fare, and somebody calls the police, and then he gets belligerent, well, that's what doesn't happen in Templeton. He has a room, 2,000 acres, of the most beautiful country there is. And it's unfortunate that the first statement was put out by the state, mentioning the closings that came to us at Templeton, came from the Department of Health, the PDS is it, which represents 1.8 million people for the state of Massachusetts. And of course, the disabled people in Massachusetts, the disability covers a lot of areas. But out of that 1.8 million, I believe the figure is 31,000 are mentally handicapped, not physically handicapped, which means they don't have the ability to fend for themselves. You can be in a wheelchair, you can have a stroke, you can do lots of things, but still have the ability to think. Unfortunately, our friends don't have that ability. And that's where they get in trouble when their surroundings are changed. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with community homes, which do work for some people that are very high functioning. But the people of Templeton are not high functioning, and that's been their home for 50 years. And then you think if your parents who grew up in their home, raised you, and then you left and they're still in their home, if the governor came down and said, okay folks, we're putting you in a condo next week, what would your parents say? But they can accept it, they can lodge it. These folks can't lodge it there. It's absolutely devastating. And again, I thank you all.
Thank you. Sir, please identify yourself.
Yes, my name's Tom Preen. I'm a vice president of COFAR. I have a brother in a state-operated group home in Clinton, Massachusetts. I would like to recognize the elected officials here, Senator Brewer and Flanagan, Representative Rice and Goby. And I would tell the people from the Templeton community the importance of them being here and the importance of letting them know how you feel about Templeton. And are you going to stand behind it, or are you going to stay silent or not support it? They need the support in the legislature. Their votes are very important. They work hard, but they need to know that you're behind them. Please contact them and let them know that you're opposed to Templeton's closure. I would say that at the outset. As a member of COFAR and an officer of COFAR, we've been fighting this fight for a long time with David Hart, with Mike, Andy, the unions, and members of the legislature. But it's so important to let them know. I just wanted to say a few things. I have a brother in a state-operated group home. He used to be in a vendor-operated group home. He got horrible care. It was very difficult to get services, to get attention paid to the poor services that he was receiving, to get the Department of Disabled Services to pay attention to my brother, the suffering that he was enduring, the struggles my mother had in trying to improve his care. So often I noticed that it's single women caring for these people, especially because they tend to need the state services as they age. The parents have aged, the mortality men pass away sooner than women do. And very often women are left fighting this fight on their own. Make no mistake about it, this is an eviction of these people from their homes. This has now been bipartisan. It has started with Republican governors. And now, to my shame and embarrassment, my party, the leader of my party in Massachusetts, is sponsoring this eviction. This is an attack on poor people, it's an attack on working people, and certainly an attack on the disabled. I do wonder, I would echo Bonnie Valade's comments, what are we becoming? That center after center across the Commonwealth is being shut, evicting these people from their homes. I have been up here before, and I've heard the stories of the direct care workers, the terribly poignant stories, kind stories, happy stories of this is their people's homes. They've lived here for a long time. The Department of Disabled Services or Disability Services, they just changed the name, so forgive me. They've shut off admissions to all of the facilities across the Commonwealth. And that is another issue. So the population is dwindling. It allows this eviction to go forward easier. Why is this happening? Why are they picking on Templeton? I would look at that land. Take a drive up there. It is absolutely breathtaking. And it was set aside by the benevolence of the men and women who came before us. They set it aside for these people so that they would have a place to go, no matter what. And I would gravely question, why do we lose these resources? You know, I've talked a lot to Jim Durkin at Council 93 and asked me, what happens to each of these municipal services as we let them go, as we privatize sanitation, as we privatize prison services? There's a host of them, and we never get them back. We never get these services back, and you'll never get this land back, and I would oppose this vehemently were I you. The second thing is the contracts, and I bought a handout that COFAR has done in the past. The contracts, I'll just tick off real quick some of the salaries of the top. This is just the top person. It's available on GuideStar.com, but VinFin, big DBS vendor, top guy in, I think it was 07 or 08, nearly $400,000. JRI, $262,000. Seven Hills, $485,000. It goes on and on and on. High six-figure salaries are very common. I would echo what David Hart said about the cost. Dr. Al-Bakati, who did the analysis at Templeton, at Glavin, he was a 30-year DMR employee, and he crunched that number out to $36,000 a person. That is reasonable care. And it is care delivered whether you have a retarded child, or a brother or sister, or an elderly person, or someone who's mentally ill. What's the number one thing besides your love for that person? It's to make sure that those direct care workers are treated fairly. The ones who are part of a labor union, believe it or not, they just do it better because they stick around longer and they're not paid a lot, but they're paid enough so they don't leave. If you go to those vendor-operated group homes, turnover is horrendous. That lends itself to abuse and neglect. And we're not talking about bump knees, we're talking about horrible self-abuse, horrible abuse, resident to resident, and all, there's nothing you can't think of that doesn't happen in those group homes.
Sir, you're approaching your 5 minutes.
Okay. I would just close with these moves are all about privatization. It's all about privatizing these services so that the direct care workers are stripped of almost anything, any modicum of a prevailing wage for Massachusetts, and so that the CEOs of those companies get to scrape off more of that money. I would oppose this, oppose it, oppose it. And I know from what I speak because my brother was abusing one. Thank you for listening.
Is there anyone else from a family? Yes, ma'am. Please identify yourself.
My name is June Armstrong. I have a son, David, who I think died in my remember. And he's been at Fernal for the past little over 30 years. But one time, David would not go to the dentist. We'd fight him all the way. Couldn't get him to a dentist or a doctor or anyone else. This staff up here is fabulous. They finally found a young woman who could take David to a doctor and get him examined, could take him to a dentist to get his teeth taken care of, and he wouldn't battle them. Now this boy, 54, going on 5, is 6 feet tall and 3 pounds. And nobody's going to tell him what to do. They're not going to push him around. But the staff is so fabulous that all they have to do is say, hey, David, can you give me a hand? And off he goes. And he keeps busy. And I would say that if furniture is closed, and they take 2 people away from our friends and our families, it's the biggest mistake they've ever made. And one of the things that I was thinking about this morning very early, it reminded me of something. There were 2 of you here probably before World War II. Do you remember what the Germans did to the Jews? They took them away from their homes. What happened after that as far as the dictation that they had to us? The point is, that these people have a home. My son says after I take him out, he says, you take me back home? You take me to my building? It's telling me something. He went out into the community. How would you like to have a nice big tall dog office? Oh, hey, you cute. What are your name? People don't put up with that. You don't like it. I don't care how sympathetic they might become, they do not want to speak for the doctors to their little children. They get scared, and you can't blame them. But he has never been time to get attention and love and care. You're not in the garden? Sorry, I don't like garden anyhow, you know, I've been there.
Careful. You can only go so far. No bad words about gardeners.
And I think if the state is smart, which I don't think it is.
Thank you very much.
Give them the love that they deserve. I mean, look what's been taken away from them. They don't have the lives that we have. They can't do the things that we can do. But they understand love, and they understand that they're safe. And this is what Charles is doing for them. And God, all I can say is, anybody that has a child or a grandchild and goes out and look at them, and all I can say is, be ever for the grace of God go on. Thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda would be comments from city, town, and state officials who haven't had an opportunity to speak. Or, ma'am, would you like to say something? No. Yeah, do you have a family member? No. Oh, okay, all right. Then we'll follow the agenda.
Okay. My name is Mary Barnes. I work at the Templeton Development. You know what? On December 11th, the state took from me my family of residents. I have been here for 26 years. I've eaten meals in the community. Where do you get that Templeton is not a community? I have a disability. I have a mental reading capacity of a 3rd grader. So I kind of know what these residents have. And I have a great love. They are part of my family at holidays. They go out with me in the community. And the devastation that hit me, I can get another job. I have a bachelor's degree. But you're taking away members of my family.
Thank you. Okay. Want to pass that? You can just pass it like that.
I have a statement that one of the residents I've worked with for many years asked me to read tonight because he couldn't be here. His name is Tom Fulgenetti, and this is his statement to the governor, to the town, the employees, and everybody at Templeton and the surrounding community. I'm a resident at the Templeton Developmental Center. I've been residing there for 23 years. I am writing because I am very concerned about my peers and my well-being. We are concerned because we have been told that in a few years TDC is to close. My peers and I feel that TDC should not be closed. There are many of us who don't have places to go or families to live with. There will also be many people who will lose their jobs if TDC is closed. With TDC closing, many of us will lose our homes and our jobs that we work while residing here. And I just want to say in closing, I've known Tom for 23 years since he's been there, and his concerns are genuine, and I'd like you all to think about that.
Thank you. Rep. Rice or Carly would like to say anything?
Thank you very much, especially to those who just proceeded to be to the microphone. I don't think that there is anything that I or anybody else can say that echoes the heartfelt sentiments that were expressed by family members who just came up to this microphone. To hear their plaintive cries for our help is truly a very moving experience. To hear, as Representative Goby and Senator Brewer and Callie Antonellis have heard tonight, to hear these stories is to give us additional incentive to do everything that we can to keep this facility open. My thought in listening to all of the speakers tonight is boiled down to one idea. What other population would tolerate a forced transfer? What other population do we have in this state that would put up with a mass eviction of over 100 residents? There is no other population that we have that would tolerate this. If this was public housing, the residents would be up in arms. If this was a relocation for urban renewal, the people who reside in those homes would tie up this matter in courts for a generation. I will say one thing. The only other population that I can think of that the state has this power over are prisoners. Are we going to treat the residents of TDC like prisoners? Have they done anything that would allow the state to take control over their lives? I will say to you that the fact that the state funds TDC should not give the state the ultimate power to decide where those residents who have lived there for, as we heard tonight, 50 years, does not give them the right to move them against their will. Now, should those residents decide that they would like to move, well, that's fine. But if they say no, who is going to stand with them? Who is going to take up their fight? I know that the elected officials, and those of you who are in the audience tonight, will do that. I know that we have heard plaintive cries for help from the most vulnerable members of our society. I have heard that. Senator Brewer has heard, Representative Goby, Senator Flanagan has heard it, and we will do everything we can to make sure that those voices are listened to. Thank you.
My name is Carly Antonellis. I am the District and Communications Director for State Senator Jen Flanagan. She is, as Andy said, on the mend. She took a tumble last week and she's nursing a concussion. I meet with her today and she has a statement that she would like me to read on her behalf. So I'm going to start to do that right now. The imminent closing of the Templeton Developmental Center is very concerning for many reasons. I am most concerned with the current residents who reside there and for their families. I, along with my colleagues, have tirelessly advocated against the closing. Unfortunately, this decision lies in the hands of our governor. I am also apprehensive about the future of the employees, many whom reside in my district, and furthermore, I am concerned about the land and what will happen after the closing. The Templeton Developmental Center has been a good neighbor to us and a substantial employer in the region. I fully understand the devastation at the state level regarding our budget. Times are very tough financially. However, I will make sure to work with my colleagues to ensure that the residents, their families, and the employees are made priority number one by the Department of Developmental Services. I will be working closely with both Senator Brewer and Representative Goby, Representative Rice, and other colleagues in the House and Senate to ensure that the administration's promise of a case-by-case approach is taken with residents as far as their future placement. I want to ensure that the employees who dedicate themselves to one of the most vulnerable populations in our society are not left without a paycheck. They are hardly recognized enough for the work that they do day in and day out. As we move forward in this process, I urge you to stay in contact with my office and to contact the other legislators within the delegation. Thank you very much.
I have a letter here addressed to the Templeton Board of Selectmen. Dear Chairman Skelton and members of the board, on October 19, 2009, the Gardner City Council unanimously voted to support your position in opposing any and all efforts to close the Templeton Development Center. We are in agreement that the closing of this center will have a dire consequence for the economy of the region, as well as potential adverse effects to the client populations. We all must do whatever is necessary and possible to avert such a tragedy. We look forward to working with you and our legislative delegation to stop the closing. Very truly yours, Council President Neil Jansen. Would any of the members of the Board of Selectmen have to say anything? Is that one?
Good evening. My name is Bob Columbus, a member of the Templeton Board of Selectmen. I'd like to thank all you people for being here tonight, and in addition, as well as everybody up on the stage here tonight. And I'd like to thank Rob Hubbard for running this meeting tonight. Once a year, at the Templeton Developmental Center, they put on a fair the last weekend in September. And thousands of people visit that every year. And there's a lot of service organizations that set up to sell various beverages and food and so forth. And my understanding, or a rumor that I heard, if the state goes through with the closing of the center, that fair will end also. And I think that would be very detrimental to the area. Thank you.
I guess that takes us to the, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, by all means.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Larry Tumino. I'm the Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Developmental Services. Our Commissioner, Elam Howe, could not come tonight, but I asked if I could come in her stead and on her behalf to listen to you, to get a first-hand look at the people of Templeton, as someone suggested we do. And I'm here tonight to listen, but I'm also here tonight to share and reiterate what Diane started with when she was up there at the microphone. First of all, we do believe we can provide equal or better care for people. We've done it when we closed other facilities. I was a part of closing the Deborah facility when I worked in the southeastern part of the state. We've been a part of doing that at Belchertown when it was open, and I agree with Senator Brewer that it shouldn't have been left in the hands of the local community to deal with all of those adverse effects of the facility. But I will share that the people who left Belchertown were very satisfied with what happened to them in the community through the network of state operating programs that we provided and the provider programs that some went to as well. The success of that movement and that closure went very well for the people we support. They were able to get that same kind of love following some of the state workers they knew into the community. I want to share that we respect and care about the employees at Templeton. That is why we build into our planning, more so than in other places, the ability to create new state-operated programs, some on the grounds of Templeton, where we build new housing, and some in the local community, because we want to create those opportunities so that people can follow people who know them already and offer some continuity to them, and to build in the kind of clinical supports that Templeton is known for. We know you do a good job, and we appreciate it. And I want to reiterate that and say that is why we built that part of our plan in there. And I just go to what Senator Brewer started with. Those are the three issues. It's the people we serve, making sure they do get equal or better, and planning with each family and guardian and individual to do that right, fitting around their needs. And there is no one size fits all. There are some people that may choose and like to look into other opportunities in the community. Some families have already come forward to do that, and we'll continue to work with them. There are others that will want a state-operated program. There are others that might say, if this facility must close, then I want to go to Rentham or Hogan, another facility that's available to us. We make that available in our work with you. I just want to share again, on the part of the commissioner, that we believe we can provide equal or better. The court monitor appointed by Judge Toro, the U.S. Attorney Michael Sullivan, in fact, when he made his report examining what we've done at Fernald to that date with people who have left, felt that we in every case provided equal or better to where people were transferred to. And he made that report to Judge Toro on our behalf. And we appreciate his findings. We believe it lends you and others confidence that we can do the job.
Thank you. Now, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to come and make a comment? Please come up to the microphone.
Again, my name is Anthony Shepherd. Prior to this, I was talking about how much we appreciate Templeton. One of the parts of the closure plan is for people who still require facility rather than community housing. The opportunity to use the Rentham. Rentham is a little closer to Boston. The geographical facility is entirely different. It's in the center of a very populated area, completely surrounded by, it's not remote like Templeton is. I guess it's been there a long time because when you drive on, the very first thing that you see are several huge brick buildings with grated windows, which are so institutional, you get shivers going on the back. The gentleman who runs that facility, his first name is Nick, and he has a name like Mike, and I can't remember how to pronounce it. He's an excellent gentleman, he's doing a wonderful job there. He has the same problem that Templeton has. 4 years ago, they gave us a terrific cut in their budget, and 3 years ago, they gave another cut in their budget, and 3 years they cut the budget, and somehow or other Templeton keeps going. Well, to make Rentham more available, they were going to do quite a bit of upgrading, and there was a large amount of money that was going to be dedicated to removing those eyesore buildings and rehabilitating other buildings on the property. Well, everybody knows the economy over the tank. Yeah. That's not Rentham's fault. Those buildings are terrible. I have personally been through that facility 3 separate times with the staff that's there, looking at what's available. What is available is in very poor maintenance condition. And I'm not trying to speak bad of the facility because I know they are working under a handshake. But there is no possible way that what they have is equal or better to what Templeton has. And I would like to ask Mr. Harrow, what facilities, what money is being made available to upgrade Rentham as was supposedly the idea to make it habitable to the people who did accept that from
Well, once again, DCAM doesn't get involved in the ongoing properties.
Would you please
Wait, sir, please, ask your questions to me, please. I don't want to get into a back and forth here.
Again, DCAM doesn't get involved in the ongoing activities of the operating facility. DCAM is involved after a decision is made to close the facility, and we involved, we work with the community as well as the local delegation on reuses of real estate. So, again, in terms of monies that are made available in terms of an operating property, that wouldn't be part of DCAM's responsibility in terms of where those dollars come from. What we would do is advise the agency, in this particular case, DDS, if monies were involved, we would then oversee the real estate function, the construction, and all of that.
But actually specifically because of the title that you have for
That
land
is correct.
acquisition and control.
Well, that is correct.
Diane, could you?
We did have some dollars set aside for not only Rentham, but a lot of our older facilities where buildings had been vacated to do demolition, and that money was just mentioned was pulled back, so that is not available. However, DCAM has been very generous in funding one of the buildings, Heffron Hall at Rentham, in doing some major renovations within that building. It's anticipated that the building will be completed in May, and there's about $2 million going into the renovation of that building.
I'd like to give another person an opportunity. Sir, are you looking to make a comment? Please identify yourself.
My name is David Caswell. I worked at the Templeton Developmental Center for 36 years. I hope the state will reconsider their stand on closing the Templeton Developmental Center. Those clients have worked there very hard at Templeton, clearing the land, digging, milking cows, growing the vegetables, and making brooms and making friends, and making TDC their home, and saving the state millions of dollars. They also tried to make their own law. Now the state gets into trouble, and of course, where does the state go first? The state developmental centers. Saying thank you for your service. Now we're going to keep you out of your homes, separate you from your friends and your family, put you in nursing homes and other areas where no one knows you and you don't know them. Do they? How would the government like that if it was told to him and they were kicking him out of his house? You know, that would not happen. This is not fair. Here are three of the biggest employees in the area: TDC, Hayward Hospital, and the prison. And he wants to close two of them. And there's no place to put the prisoners. The prisons are full already. The state is already saying too many people out of work, too many people on welfare, so their solution is to raise the taxes on products, liquor and cigarettes for people go to New Hampshire, and to add to the unemployment by laying off more people, putting more people on the welfare that they should be saving jobs and making jobs. Isn't this what President Obama sent their stimulus money for, to save jobs? You know, Governor Patrick wants managers to take furloughs. Well, shouldn't this be offered to the state employees also? I worked at the Templeton State for 36 years, and we had tough times too, and we were offered furloughs. I'd rather lose a couple days' pay than lose my job. I hope you'll reconsider this because the clients are depending on you. I have a client up there who loves to go out to the doctor's offices and everything. And one day they went and told him, after the news came out that Templeton was going to close, they went up and told him, you got to go to the doctors. And he said he didn't want to go. They said, why not? He said because he was afraid that they wouldn't bring him back.
Thank you.
Again, my name is David Hart from COFAR. I'd like to just make a comment on a statement that was made by Mr. Tumino. He said that the choice was given with Rentham and Hogan remaining open. Well, the fact is that Hogan is going to remain open for 4 years, and its fate will be decided in 4 years. I forgot to mention earlier that I am president of the Hogan's Parent Association also. So I've got about 150 families that are going to live on pins and needles for the next 4 years or more to find out, till they find out what the fate of their loved ones are going to be. And also part of the plan, ultimately, I believe, is to close Hogan, and also Rentham will close, and Rentham will close when the last person dies, and there's no need for it. The question, and he also made a statement that they've closed facilities in the past. Well, part of Hogan's facility was Berry, and Berry was closed, and the parents were promised that the group homes would be designated ICFMRs. And they were for a year. And then the ICFMR designation was taken away. So that's the Department of Mental Retardation telling you what you wanted to hear. I also say too, is that a few people out here mentioned about what if their sons or daughters or loved ones were in the community and the reaction to some of the community. Well, people would have you believe that the community is waiting with open arms for these group homes. The fact of the matter is, folks, they're not. And the reason for that is that the people in the community basically don't understand the people who we live with and know and so forth. But more importantly, there's a federal law out there that states you cannot block the building of a group home. Why is that federal law out there? Because it was needed. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is again, and Mike brought it up, is the aging population and the new population. We've got people that are living in state-off group homes right now that as they get older, their medical needs get greater. They can't go to nursing homes because the department has been told that they have to empty the nursing homes of people with mental retardation through the Roland class suit. And they have to set aside money every year in which to do so. So nursing homes aren't an option. What else is an option? Hogan has a stabilization unit that when somebody fails in the community, they can come back and they can spend 30, 60, 90 days, a year, trying to learn how to live in that community setting again. Some fail, some do well. But if you take these things away, there is no safety net. There's no safety net in the community. If all of the facilities close, Templeton, all Fernald, every one of them, there is no safety net for the people that it serves and the surrounding communities and group homes in those communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone who has not had a chance to make a comment? Yes, sir. Please come down to the microphone.
Yes, good evening. My name is Tony Brigetti. I'm a selectman in the town of Athol, and I would like to assure the Templeton Board of Selectmen that I will make a motion at the next Athol Board of Selectmen meeting to echo the Gardner City Council's view on what is happening up at the Rehabilitation Development Center. And you people from Boston, I've dealt with people from Boston before. Many, many years ago, my grandmother and grandfather dealt with people from Boston. They took away their homes, not the most vulnerable members of society, but they took their homes on the Quabbin Reservoir that you people now enjoy the best pristine water in the country to be drank. I want you to take back a message to Governor Patrick. I'm ashamed of this decision as a member of Western Massachusetts. Ashamed. Take that message back and reverse this decision.
Give people an opportunity to speak as to take a pause for applause. I think we know where you stand, so is there someone who hasn't spoken that would like to speak? Yes, please come up. Identify yourself, please.
I'm Sharon Andy, I'm a resident of Templeton, and I see we're all here, there's a lot of us little people here, and we've got big people from Boston sitting over there. Now, what I'd like to ask Senator Brewer, through you, how do we squash this decision? How can we squash it? I know people talk about the governor, but I don't know if it's per se his, lone decision, or is he listen to a council? I know he has to present a balanced budget, but how do we squash that decision? I know if you don't want the governor, you just don't vote for him next time, that's all. But I mean, how do we squash this decision? What's the best way of doing it?
I had a little experience in this in 1988 when he wanted to put it, when Michael Dukakis wanted to put a prison in Braintree. And it was a very, very small town. Town's a lot smaller than Templeton or Athol, I will tell you. And they motivated the editorial boards, in particular the Telegram and Gazette, and then they got Jerry Williams of WRKO. And then they got some environmental groups, and they actually, citizens of New Braintree, when Mike Dukakis was running for president in the Iowa caucuses, they went out to Iowa, and every place he turned, many times they've addressed in prison garb to draw attention to themselves, motivated public opinion to a great degree. I would say that he's wrong on this, and nobody speaks better, not the politicians, not the state officials, nobody speaks better on this issue than the good citizens, people that they love. You move us with your testimony today. But he has unenviable choices. But it's not all finances, because Mitt Romney, when we had money coming over the transoms, was working on this whole process. And the governor now, this governor, who I don't envy the positions that he is in financially. And there are many people in this room that would tell me, hell no, don't raise a penny of my taxes. Well, if you lose $3 billion on the bottom line of a budget, you are engendered with very difficult choices on, and then we come back and raise a little bit of taxes in certain places. I'll only speak for myself. And you also get the living hell kicked out of you for doing that, to try to stop the hemorrhaging. Because not only is the citizens that you take care of, but people that are 50 years old and they go blind, and they lose their eyesight. And homemaker services, 4 hours a week, to bring a person that has gone blind at age 50 so the sun can shine on their face. And yet, because the choices we are engendered with down in Boston require us to cut those homemaker services too. They are not pretty choices, and these are the kind of choices that we are left with when there's a catastrophic loss of revenues. But the good thing about this, as we were saying, it isn't happening tomorrow. And governors come and governors go. Secretaries of Human Services come and go. Commissioners come and go. Well, you applaud, but let me tell you this. You got candidates out there. Charlie Baker, the Republican candidate, a disciple of Bill Weld, who wanted to close Glavin. Think about these things. You see what I'm saying? There is enough blame. Tim Cahill, the independent, wants to run. Says that Governor Patrick hasn't cut enough. Think about the consequences of these things as well. The choices are going to be yours, all right? We all have the privacy of the voting booth. But anybody who comes and promises you the land of milk and honey, and you can have it for less money than you're using now, is just giving you some flim-flam. Thank you.
I have someone who would like to speak for a second time. Is there anybody out there who hasn't had an opportunity? Yes, sir, right here. I'd like to give people a first opportunity.
My name is Patrick Robinson, resident of Templin. I've dealt firsthand with that community of redevelopment center. I ran a transportation company in Templin. It was run communities from the 70s through the 90s. I handled special needs transportation for numerous years. And until you walk a mile in these people's shoes that help these people up here, I don't think you should pass judgment on them. And I think I have seen the brewer's solution to the hemorrhaging of government. I think we should amputate that long arm of our government. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is James Jackson. I'm a retiree at Developmental Center. Thank you folks for coming out tonight, putting a lot of these rumors which we've been hearing, speaking aloud so we can get it firsthand. I just have a couple of stories here to tell you. The folks up there are so special in more than one way. They're so proud of what they do. It's unbelievable. They'll come running up to you and show you a citation, a certificate. Look, I'm the worker of the week. And they're so proud because they went to jobs that they have up there. They have certain workshops, jobs. They take a lot of pride in that. And also, I was in some buildings where a lot of, well, there were gentlemen that I was taking care of, and some of them were reaching the end of their lives. And believe me, that's hard. Even for myself, you know, I'm 6'1", big guy. To sit next to a fella who is dying, he reaches out, and this is God's honest truth, folks, grabs my hand and says, Jim, you're a friend of mine. You won't let me die, will you? And I said, well, I have no control over that. I called his name, I was holding his hand. I said, it's up to the Lord. But if you feel it's time to go, let go. You will be with your parents. My shift ended, I went home. And this, I look at what happened on the outside. I don't think you'll have one-to-one care right up to the end. My shift ended, I went home. Someone else came in, sat with this fine gentleman. I got a call 6 in the morning. One of my staff in that building said, Jim, I need to tell you so-and-so passed away during the night. I didn't want you to walk in and just hear that. Now, will they be staffed to sit with these ladies and gentlemen out there? Will they be staffed to be there when they show them that they are the work of the week? How proud they are to plant a garden and watch nature take over, to see a cow giving birth to a calf, nature being born, life coming in. That's not going to happen on the other side. And Commissioner, I don't know if you're familiar with Jones Cemetery Road in Orange. You have a house out there. That's 1.5 miles on a dirt road, at least 2 miles or maybe 2.5 miles from any stores. I'm sure that they get there very, very often. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Identify yourself, please.
My name is Bruce Welcome. My brother Tony is at facilities. We all today heard very touching stories of our loved ones. Also from the people from Templeton, as far as them worried about losing jobs, losing their homes. And they are very, very touching stories. But I think that what all of us have realized after the comments from Eleanor Howe's fill-in, that they don't care. We are speaking to deaf ears. We have been since this began, and we will be until we win this fight. The people in this community have feelings. These people in these communities need our help. If it's about money, instead of closing a prisoner in Gardner, why don't we just kill everybody there that committed a crime? No, because that in turn is what Governor Patrick is doing from the people that they're going to take out of these facilities and put them into communities. My brother was in a community. I understand it, and we don't believe, Eleanor Howe, that it's going to work. She's lied to us before, she'll continue to lie to us. My brother Tony was beaten, he was robbed in these communities that are supposed to protect him. If it's about money again, what do you think about these special people that are going to fill up our emergency rooms because their arms hurt, or their backs hurt, or their stomachs hurt, but now the care that they have, the nurse will say, oh geez, that's Tony, or that's Mike or Bob, oh, you know, he's kind of a hypochondriac. The strain on our healthcare system is already enough. We all know that. But it's going to be even more phenomenal with this. And the protection of our loved ones in these communities on a day-to-day basis are going to be affected. They're going to go up to children at bus stops and say, hi, how are you today? And what do you think is going to happen to them when they do that? But again, we know you don't care.
Thank you. Anyone else? For the first time, yes, sir. Identify yourself.
My name is Earl Baldwin. I live in Athol and I work at Templeton Developmental Center. I feel a little uncomfortable up here because I have agreements with the Commonwealth that tells me what I can and cannot say up here. And there's probably information that I should say and just say, hell, I'm not going to. And here's some points that these people need to know. Number one is the employment fair offering opportunity for staff at Templeton Developmental Centers tomorrow. Dr. Bigby Bidby, and Commissioner Howard, temporary employees of the taxpayers of the Commonwealth. That's important to remember. No one in this room has the authority to impact on the decision to close TDC. That needs to be said tonight, and everyone needs to know that. Diane doesn't know me. She was not at Templeton when I was there. However, the gentlemen that live there and I work for speak of you with reverence. And the people that work for you speak of you with dignity. And you need to know that while you sit there and hear some of this stuff. The DMR had the responsibility to place in the community appropriate residents prior to this name change. Over the last 20 years, they had the responsibility to get anybody who should be out of that facility out. I wasn't there then. They had a responsibility to each person up there to get them into a community setting where they would be more comfortable if it was appropriate. The decision shouldn't be based around whether or not somebody wants to close a facility. It should be based on the people that are there. It's a separate conversation. I can say very little about this, but I work with gentlemen who are not welcome in the community at large, legally. TDC is still receiving admissions of people who are not welcome in the community legally. When I attended the 1999 Democratic Convention in Springfield, it was obvious that there is a void between our desires as residents and voters in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the perception of our desires. We have lost control of our political system. This has nothing to do with these people. And probably my selectman doesn't know, but I do not believe Diane Enoch lives in Boston. And I don't believe she's in Boston every day, all the time. I don't believe there's anybody here that can hear us and do anything about it. So from here on in, it's your game. You can get me to go see Diane DeVal out near the Housatonic River in western Massachusetts where they live. They're not Boston people anymore. If you want to take that tack, do it. But don't think that this is the way we're going to change this decision. And I think Stephen Brewer made it very clear. This is a very, very difficult time. And if we're right, we have to tell somebody who can do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't see anybody. Sir, did you have a second comment? If you want to, I can barely see you in the dark up there, so if you do want to say something, make your way down front and have a seat here where I can see you. Go ahead.
Hi, Tom Crane from COFAR again. I did want to comment on what Larry Tumino said. As far as the Fernal families, there is still bitter resentment and ongoing attempts to keep Fernald open. The Fernal families have fought that bitterly. There's no happiness there. And the way the department goes about these things and the way they're going to do it here is all the same. They're going to try to divide and conquer. They're going to offer jobs through through job fairs. And then they're going to contact each of the families and each of the guardians directly, and they're going to try to urge them to leave Templeton. And then they will hold fairs for the vendors to reach out to the families. There will be a concerted, organized effort to divide and conquer the families, the employees, the town, everything. There's no happiness among the Fernal families. I disagree with what he said, as well as the way that Dever and Belchertown. The Belchertown Family Group is a COFAR member. So I would go to COFAR.org. Go to COFAR.org and read about Anna Tross, who was moved out of the Fernal Developmental Center, a 90-year-old woman who had been there for 50 years and was repeatedly refused. Read about Anna Tross and you'll learn about what's going to happen at Templeton.
Thank you.
My name is Keith Kent. I'm a resident of the town of Templeton. I'd like to say that let's for a minute, break it down to the basics about the Homestead Act and equal and better care. I take it all of you by now have driven across the grounds at Fernpool Center. You remember what the speed limit sign there says by any chance? 10 miles per hour. There's a reason for that. These people are some of the most friendly human beings you're ever going to meet on the planet Earth. And they have a beautiful habit of wanting to introduce themselves to every person they come across. God bless them for them. So let's think about equal and better care. My brother-in-law worked up there until a couple of years ago. He works at the College and Garden now as a police officer. And he was always out there with the dogs when these people get loose. Trust me, they get out. Some of these people have superhuman strength. Some of these people are incredibly fast. You put them in a blue collar. I promise you, there are cases across the state where these people get out. Whether it's out a window, out a door when their back is turned. Some of them are smarter than they look, even though they have disabilities. You can't underestimate these folks. When they get out, we'll talk about equal and better care. When they get out on the grounds of the Fernpool School, when they get out in Eastern Mass, they're not going to have 2,000 acres of woods and a few squirrels and deer around. When they get out in Eastern Mass, they're going to have automobile after automobile after automobile. And keep in mind what we just talked about, they're going to go up to every car they can and try to say hi, because that's what they're accustomed to out here. They don't see the danger in a 4,000-pound automobile, folks. They see, oh, who can I say hi to next? Because that's what they're accustomed to out here. The good people of this town and the emergency services in this town, okay? If one of these people did somehow make it off the 2,000 or 3,000 acres and got past the dogs, which doesn't happen, but if it did, the people in this town pull together, and they would immediately bring this person into their home, feed them, shelter them, get them warm, and call the emergency services to come get them. I've been to Boston Celtics games more times than I can count. I've met plenty of rude people, I've met plenty of good people. But I'm going to tell you right now, they are not going to get equal or better care because these people aren't used to them, such as the residents in this town are, and those people are not going to know how to take them. They're going to get scared to death. One of these people, if they get loose, would walk up, grab them to say hi, they think they're being assaulted, they call the cops. They probably punch one of them, for God's sakes, not knowing the person's trying to say hi, because they don't know how to take these people's actions, as we do out here, through continued long-term exposure to the disabilities. And I'm telling you, they're going to walk out in front of the car, and bam, they're going down. It's horrible. I don't like thinking about it or saying it, but sometimes the most unpopular truth is the truth that needs to be said. I heard a story a couple of years ago on the news, where a person did get out of the group home in Eastern Mass. It was on 4, 5, and 7 about 2.5 years ago. This person did get out. Person walked right out in the middle of the road, had no absolute clue. Got taken down by a heavy equipment truck. But the vehicle would just stop for him, as we do out here. 10 miles an hour. Equal better care. Nobody's going to be able to find these people in a crowd, such as our trained teams with the dogs, well, or our emergency services. And equal better care, I present to you that if these people get out in a big city, they're not going to receive the open arms that they get out here. And I hate to say it, but for some of those people, it's a death sentence. I'm sorry I have to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. It's approaching 9 o'clock. Is there anybody that wants to say something that we haven't heard at this point? Yes, ma'am. Come right now. Identify yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Brenda Lanson. I'm from Winchester. I can only say I hear a lot of, what's going on with the residents. And my dad was a former employee. He died 20 years ago. He was a hard construction worker for 5 years. Miserable work to the bone. He started working at the furnace school, and he became a new man. It was the furnace school that brought my family together. School, and I'm sure it is for a lot of these people, that brings compassion to their home. I think closing the Brummel School and all of these people that are going to lose their jobs is just going to decrease the quality of life that we work so hard to bring up.
Thank you. I've been asked to make a few closing comments, but I'd give, if anybody has something they want to say before you listen to me for a minute. Sir, I think we've already heard. Have we heard from you? Okay, you haven't heard from me yet. Anybody else that hasn't been heard? Because I think, you know, as other people have said to all of you, thank you very much for coming out tonight and telling us your stories and experiences. It's as Senator Brewer said, that's what's most important. What I heard tonight is that we're all asking ourselves a question about what the Templeton Development Center will look like in 5 years. Will it provide the services that the folks up there currently need? Will the change, and change is inevitable, the question is what will that change be and how will it address the needs of the residents up there? That's really the question. And I firmly believe that we have to be engaged in the process that determines how that change is made. I hear you all, and I agree with you all. Closing the Templeton Development Center for this region, and as the planning director in the city of Gardner, I know how important the employment and the economic activity that's generated from that center means to the area. So it's very important, it's a regional issue, and we all need to get behind it. But what we need to do is get involved in the process to figure out where it's going and make your needs, the people you represent, your family members, over and over again, we have to let folks know what they need. The Fort Devens reuse plan took 2.5 years to put together. If the towns down there had not gotten involved at the beginning of the process, they would have been left out. This is a great step. We've got some of the right people here to hear from you, and we have to continue to work with the elected officials. Senator Brewer mentioned, I think in the legislation, of the request for cost-benefit analysis. That's absolutely crucial, but what we need to make sure is that the cost-benefit analysis is done by independent consultants who answer to a committee with representation from you, from the Board of Selectmen, from other elected officials. It's only by participating in that committee that you have a chance of assuring that the analysis will be done in an independent manner. You throw up your hands, say, we won't talk about it, then who's going to drive the bus? You've got to be on the bus in order to participate in the process. So again, thank you to elected officials and the state representatives and all the folks who came out, the Board of Selectmen, for organizing this. I thank you very much and have a good evening.
I love these buildings.